Welcome to this edition of Cardinal Clips. We're going to be here with Dr. Kevin Ronneberg, 1987 graduate of Willmar Senior High. He's going to be the speaker this evening at the Senior Awards Banquet. Dr. Ronneberg, welcome. Kevin, what's it like to grow up in Willmar and go out and be a doc? What made you decide that career?
Well, first of all, I appreciate the opportunity to come back tonight and speak to the honors graduates. It's quite an honor myself, and so I appreciate that opportunity. I always think growing up in Willmar formed my life greatly from a standpoint of having a supportive community. It was a great size. Having my dad as a teacher in the schools held me accountable to a lot of people that knew who I was. And also some of the physicians in the community were really mentors to me, and I appreciated the role that they played in the community, and that really helped drive some of my decision to become a physician.
There probably wasn't much you could get by with your dad in the building.
There wasn't a whole lot that he wasn't aware about, and fortunately, I think I was probably a pretty good kid, although I do know I have a brother that ended up having some things come back to my dad, and that he was a little surprised about sometimes years later. So you're right.
When you think of your education in Willmar and where you have ended up, did we give you a good base knowledge to kind of prepare you for what you do as a career?
There were a lot of great opportunities in Willmar, and I think it's it's a comprehensive program. The size of the school, we had a lot of great offerings that weren't present in some of the smaller districts, and we weren't so big that you'd get lost in the shuffle. So the opportunity to participate in music, for myself anyway, to participate in sports where we had some success, and that was a lot of fun, as well as the classroom where there were a lot of challenging electives and opportunities getting into college preparatory work. It was really just the best of all worlds.
What sports did you participate in?
I played football, basketball, and baseball, and we had a lot of fun. We were able to go to the state tournament in basketball in 1987 and surprised a few people in the spring of 1987 winning the state tournament in baseball.
So I would assume at that baseball win you played for John Horning, and there must have been a lot of talent on that team. Can you tell us a little bit about that win, that season?
Sure. There were a lot of great memories, and John Horning coached us in football a little bit. He coached us in baseball, and we had a fair amount of talent on that team and did not perform well during the season. And I remember we had a losing record, finished last in our conference. We entered the playoffs with a losing record, and I still remember getting on the bus as we were in the parking lot over at what's now Kennedy, getting ready to drive down to the state tournament. And Coach Horning stood up in front of us and told us that we had a chance to do something that no boys team had ever done in the history of Willmar High School. And he left it at that. He was always a guy that was very efficient with his words and got our attention. And that struck us. And my role, I was fortunate enough to be on that team. I didn't play a whole lot, but I have a lot of friends that did, and it was a very cohesive team.
Was there anything that happened in high school that Manny never found out about that maybe you'd like to tell us today, since you're a little older? And
I have suppressed any memories that might incriminate myself.
I can understand that. Can you tell us a little bit about who's your favorite teacher? Of course, it's got to be your dad, I would imagine. But what are some of your memories about high school outside the athletics, maybe some of the academics or music?
Sure. So Mr. Polta stands out. I still, to this day, am not enamored with writing in English. And Mr. Polta had a course on writing research papers that at the time scared the you-know-what out of me. And what I learned in that class was that, there's a very simple way to go about that. And he was very deliberate in the process, and I came out of that with a much better understanding of how to write papers. I still don't like to do it, but I know that it can be accomplished. So that's one that stands out for me. And then I clearly had a strong interest in math and science. My dad did play a very big role in my interest in math and wanting to pursue some of that problem solving and learning.
Graduated 1987. Where'd you go after high school?
I didn't stay anywhere very long after high school, so it's a long list. But I started at what was then Willmar Community College and completed a liberal arts AA, transferred to Augsburg College down in Minneapolis following my older brother, and completed a degree in mathematics and a minor in psychology. And at that point, it took me 2 more years to get everything done that I needed to do to get into medical school because of a late decision to do that. And then went to University of Minnesota Duluth for 2 years at their med school, 2 years at the University of Minnesota Twin Cities for med school. And at that point, a residency at Methodist Hospital in St. Louis Park in family medicine.
As you think about going to med school, was there anything, how hard was it? Tell us how difficult it was.
So this might sound a little counterintuitive, but that was probably 4 of the most fun years of my life. And I think that has a lot to do with, if you're really clear about what's important to you and what you enjoy, and you find yourself in a setting being able to do those things, it's not work. And so while there were a lot of hours involved and a lot of studying and memory and thought and long hours, there was also a pretty cohesive group of individuals all going through the same thing together, and was able to stay fit and be involved in social activities at a degree that probably is unrivaled in the rest of my life because of that.
I know you're married and have a family. You want to tell us a little bit about the most important people in your life, I would imagine?
Oh, absolutely. I'm married to one of the most wonderful women in the world, Amy. And Amy and I met now 11 years ago. It took me, she's not going to see this, right? It took me 8 years to convince her to marry me. Maybe it was the other way around. And we now are really privileged to have 2 daughters that we just love to death and really make up our world. Isabel, who turned 2 in February, and is telling us all kinds of stories we could have never imagined. And then Hadley, who is 6 months old and really at a fun stage where she is engaging with the world in a really fun way.
When you went to med school, was there a specialty that you worked in? Or I know you worked at a couple of places, and now you've not too long ago changed jobs. So you want to tell us a little bit about your medical career and what kind of medicine that you practice?
Sure. So I'm a family practice physician by training, and I, up until 3 years ago, had a family medicine practice as well as a sports medicine practice. I built a sports medicine program with Fairview Health Services in the Twin Cities, known as Fairview Sports and Orthopedic Care. I spent 3 years, the last 3 years, with Medica, which is a nonprofit payer located in Minnetonka, Minnesota. And now most recently made another change. And so it's almost 3 months now that I've been at Target Corporation, a really exciting opportunity working with retail medicine, both in clinics as well as pharmacies.
So can you define retail clinic for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's our promo, right? So there's been a move within a lot of retail businesses such as Target to get into the healthcare business for some things that are fairly straightforward, such as strep throat, urinary tract infections, skin infections. A lot of the things that people like myself didn't do a great job of getting people in and providing care when it was needed. So we're able to provide care in a convenient manner at a low cost and really deliver high quality results. And there's a lot of opportunity for us to try and push care out to where people are already living. If you think about some of the pharmacies, convenience stores, retail outlets, if you're already going there, why can't we provide some of the care you need and get away with this procrastination that occurs, which I get, calling, scheduling an appointment, sitting in a waiting room, and all the inconveniences that my profession is put into healthcare.
A clinic in every target? Is that the target for a target?
So we're at a very exciting stage where right now we have 44 clinics, and we'll soon have 54, and that's in 6 different markets, including Minnesota. Really, we don't have a set goal right now, but there are 1,700 in some Target stores in the United States. There probably are somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 to 400 that would really fit the what we're looking at for a clinic.